This is Family Time 91. We're back to self-management for our social emotional learning competencies, and we're talking about discipline. We're going to have a discussion in my classes about how we define discipline, what discipline is, and why discipline might be important. So far as I'm concerned, discipline is one of the biggest things we can help our young people develop because it's transferable. Admittedly, a lot of the things we do in school on a day-to-day basis don't necessarily translate to all aspects of life. That's not to belittle those things. We kind of know the old saying, well, when am I ever going to need this in my life? I think there's great value in exercising the different parts of our brain, having us think in different ways, also providing some foundational skills that we can use as a platform, a jumping off point, and allow students to find what they really do find interesting and what they do excel at. But things like discipline and perseverance, grit, determination, those things are universally transferable. They apply to all aspects of life. And I think discipline often gets a bad rep. We think of discipline as something that is confining, something that's limiting, that we really can't have fun if we're very disciplined. And the opposite is really true. If we have discipline, we have more choice. That may seem like those things don't go together, that we're limiting our choices by being disciplined, but I think when we're not disciplined, we're also not making a lot of choices for ourselves. We're sort of going with the flow. We're moving along with the inertia of life. We're influenced by a lot of outside forces. And it's hard to be happy when that is our existence. When we can be disciplined, when we can set up goals, when we can set routines, when we can stay focused on things we want to achieve, that leads to happiness. That leads to freedom. It takes away a lot of the weight and pressure that is put on us by all of these outside forces. It's our own way to build a suit of armor, to make ourselves impervious to some of these outside things. We're going to talk about how we develop discipline. And there's a lot of aspects that go into that. I think something that's important to remember, something that I try to preach with my students and athletes all the time, is that being disciplined isn't about these singular, grand gestures. A lot of times we want that in life. We want the miracle cure. We want the crash diet. We want instant gratification. And that's sort of the opposite of discipline. That's also why it can be hard for many of us to stay disciplined, because discipline's not real flashy. It's kind of grinding away. It's the old adage that I use a lot of times. It's not mine, but how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. It's doing little things over and over and over again. And it's important to focus on little things because those are more sustainable. If you want to start a workout routine, it's not real sustainable to say I'm going to work out 4 hours every day and jump into it gung-ho and do that nonstop, and we'll wind up not having time for that, or we develop injuries, those sorts of things. But if we can implement healthy habits in our daily lives and we can get used to those things, then we can build on them. And that's a big part of discipline too. It's sort of starting with things that we can do and then adapting and growing from there, and slowly adding discipline, building disciplines on discipline. And another thing that I think is important to consider with discipline is sacrifice. I think those two things go hand in hand. That's always kind of what I ask myself and what I ask of my students, my athletes, is what do you want most in life? And what are you willing to give up to get those things? That's the real question. What are you willing to give up? If you're not willing to give up time, if you're not willing to give up some of your social life, if you're not willing to give up watching Netflix, going on TikTok, whatever it is, that's okay. But then you have to understand that maybe this other thing you think you want, maybe it's not as important to you as you thought it was. Or you have to be honest and realize some of those other things may be keeping you back from what you say you want most. And if you really do want that thing most, and if you're not going to be happy without some of those other things, we have to cut away other stuff. And that's hard. It can be painful. Sometimes we have to cut away those distractions. Other times we have to cut away bigger things. We have to maybe cut people out of our lives who are a negative influence, who are holding us back. That can be very hard. So we have to consider what we're willing to sacrifice to get what we really want. And that's a part of discipline. That's our focus this week. We're going to have a lot of conversation about what discipline really means, how we can implement it in our lives, how we can build it. But just remember, discipline isn't the restriction. Discipline is the key. Discipline is the thing that will allow you to be who you want to be. Discipline is the thing that will lead to a higher level of joy and peace and self-respect. So don't shy away from discipline. Find ways to build it into your life. Much love.